Welcome back to Better Than I Deserve. Today we're back in the Harvest Right freeze dryer to freeze dry more food, and we have almost all new things going in, and I'm very excited to see how it turns out. We've got some milk going in before we tried that heavy cream, and in this video we are going to taste test it. I'm a little nervous to see how it's going to go. It is very granuled looking, so it doesn't have a nice powdery consistency like I thought was going to happen. Clearly it's because there's so much of a high fat content to it. That is probably the reason that happened. So we'll give it a go and hope for no sick stomachs after the fact. But we are going to be trying some regular milk this time. Still has a high fat content, but not as much as heavy cream. The next item we have going in is some sugar snap peas, which we did before, but we just had a few extra and I didn't want them to go bad. So we're doing a little bit on one tray, and last time they were delicious. I don't think that I probably proclaimed enough of how much I liked them. I really had them devoured by myself within only a few days. Filson definitely seems to like them more fresh from what I can see, so I was fine to eat them all by myself, and Brad had been gone, so he didn't get to try any, but I will try to share as much as I can with the family this time if I can do that. But shared on that tray, we actually did some ginger. We are big ginger lovers for cooking and just adding a little flair of flavor. Of course, definitely the tanginess with spice that doesn't stick or linger too long, but we have had the worst luck with ginger trying to keep it fresh in the fridge. If you have suggestions on how you've done it long term, and by long term I mean a month or so, obviously I realize fresh things cannot last forever in the fridge, but if you have suggestions of how to keep ginger for a long period of time, please let me know. We have tried many things and it's just not worked. So we did plant some. I read that you could take the ginger and put it in dirt, and ours has sprouted and it's doing incredible, but you can't take it back out until after it flowers. We did do a little test with that and it was pretty mushy, so we realized we had to go buy more. Brad went to the store, got some more, and I'm like, let's just grate all of it and try freeze drying it. So that will be shared on our tray with the sugar snap peas today. The final tray that we have going in today is some squash. While that doesn't seem very exciting, I get a little burnout on squash. So I've been looking for different ways to create and use it in the kitchen because, I don't know, sometimes you just need a change. So I scoured the internet and found some helpful pages to help guide on how to make flour. Yes, flour from squash. You could also do this by dehydrating it. Obviously, since we have the freeze dryer, I wanted to try that. I will now show you what that process took to get it to where we are now. Today we are going to be doing some squash in the freeze dryer to do squash flour. So I'm going to go ahead and spray these down and wash my hands while we're here. Alright. So in the recipes and things that I've seen to do squash flour, you cut off the ends and that's pretty much it. I'm going to be cutting them in half to make sure that they can fit in the food processor. And we're going to essentially be shredding them. It also said to not de-seed them, and these don't have many seeds even, so that's quite nice. There are 4 squash in total that we'll be doing, and I will be weighing them just to get an idea of how much we are working with. It specifically does say to leave the skin on, so not sure if that would be some kind of big difference, but all right, so I went ahead and grabbed our scale here. Put these in. So we have 1 pound, 12 ounces. So it's not a lot, but I know we're going to start having a ton, and I feel like this is a good time for us to use it and practice. So now I'm going to use a food processor, and I need to put the other attachment on. Alright, I have the other attachment on now for shredding, and we'll be putting in each piece. I think that they should all fit. If I need to do any adjustments, I'll make that happen. So yeah, we're going to be shredding this and then putting it on trays for our freeze drying cycle. Alright, I went ahead and got out our freeze drying tray here, and we will get this all spread out on there. Probably says to do it like this because you have the least amount of surface area to break it down, and it's pretty consistent. You probably could have also done slices, but ultimately this probably still is pretty consistent and much smaller. So this is much more than I was thinking, so I'm glad that that's all we have. It's going to easily take up this whole tray. Spread it out as evenly as possible and just make sure it's not too tall. Obviously the openings in the freeze dryer are bigger than they appear. They're not the exact same size as the piece is a little big as the trays, so there's some wiggle room, and since this isn't like a liquid, it's not going to bubble up, and I like to kind of put little holes in there, kind of get some air movement. And this will be going in the freezer with the other things that will be running in this cycle, and then we'll be taking it out, you know. So here's a closer look at our squash that we just put through the food processor. We'll put this in the freezer with our other things that are going to go in for the cycle and see how this turns out. It definitely wasn't a hard process to do. Obviously, my goal with this is, if everything turns out well, like I'm hoping, is we will put it back in either the food processor or a blender and get it into a powdered flour substance, and hopefully do some baking with it and see how it turns out. Many people said it's pretty bland, flavorless, and that's kind of what you want when you're trying to substitute flour and not to have a heavy taste in it. Now people can make zucchini bread and things like that, and it's very sweet. Obviously lots of other things in it for, you know, sweetness factor, but the idea with this is you're just using it as a one-for-one replacer, and we'll try some recipes and see how that goes. We will see how everything turns out. I'm gonna get over to the freeze dryer and get it cooled down so I can show you all the food before it goes in today. Now that we have all of our food down here, let's go show you what it looks like. Our first two trays right here on the front are some milk, and like I said before, we have tried heavy cream, not milk before, so I'm hoping that this really has a better outcome than that, and I do plan on trying that in this video and hoping for the best. But this milk was provided by a dear friend of ours who recently just got her first dairy cow. We're super excited for her, and even more thankful that she offered to give us some, and we have blown through the rest of it, but I wanted to set some aside to try to freeze dry. So that is very exciting. And our third tray here is our squash. Like I'd shown in the clip, it doesn't look much different. It is very heavy, just like the milk, and we're just hoping for a good outcome, that it can turn into flour. So we'll see how that goes. Our final tray is our ginger that we put through the food processor. Brad helped with that last night. And the sugar snap peas with salt. It was so good that way. They were good both ways, but it was really good with the salt. The ginger already is kind of coming back to life pretty quickly. It's a nice, hot, humid day, so let's move our processes along here. Go ahead and close the drain valve and press continue. Now that we've started our cycle, we can focus on what we will be doing. Obviously, with the extremely hot temperatures we are having, it's roughly averaging in the low to mid 90s. The humidity is a huge factor right now. And if you are doing any of this in the same kind of weather environments and have suggestions on how to handle things quickly, and if you leave them in the freeze dryer until you're doing it, let us know. Obviously, I know it will be a little late for this particular video, but we are in for a treat of warm weather over the next probably few months still. So with the milk and the squash that we will have coming out, those ones are pretty unique and huge liabilities for taking on moisture. Of course, they will be getting some kind of oxygen absorber or silica packet just to make sure that nothing does go bad. But like I said, if you have suggestions on how you handle and battle the humidity, let us know, because even downstairs in the basement where it's nice and cool, it is already humid, I can tell. So we do have a dehumidifier. Maybe that's something that I consider plugging in around our work area. We will see how this goes and check back tomorrow. It's been just over 24 hours since we last checked in, and the freeze dryer says it's done, but the only way to verify that is to get in and see what everything looks like. I did go ahead and press warm trays just to get things easily out. And we are probably going to do things a little differently than we have in the past. Since the humidity is high, I have tried to do things to make it so it's a little lower down here. I'm not sure if that'll work, but we'll just be doing one item at a time and leaving everything else in there as we're going through it. So we'll move over, open up that drain valve, and see what it all looks like. Go ahead and start with our easiest items first, the ginger and sugar snap peas. So I apologize for the noise since we're leaving the unit on to keep everything else cool. It's going to be a little loud, but we'll get through this pretty quickly, and I look forward to showing you what we have. Our first tray is our small amount of sugar snap peas and the ginger, the grated ginger, and let's feel it all, see what it looks like super crispy. So that is exactly what I was hoping for. I brought down 2 little containers. It has the rubber gasket again, so I am very excited about that. I'm hoping that the ginger will all fit in here, so we'll see. And then the sugar snap peas will go in here. This smells so good. It's very strong, pungent. Of course, not in a bad way, but wow. I mean, it is incredible. I do have another one of these that we could probably put it into, because my idea is not to crush this as much as I'm doing. So we'll go get that other container and get them packaged up. I am going to do a little test. This could be fatal because of how strong ginger is, but kind of spicy. Oh wow, it's good. It'll be great for cooking. Oh my god, that may have been a mistake. We're working through it. We're gonna follow it up with a sugar snap pea. Oh wow. That was a good follow-up. Definitely needed. Wow. I say my experience with ginger is of the pickled variety, like if you're having sushi or in dumplings. Oh my gosh, I've been so distracted by that. Went and got our other jar. So we'll get that ponied up in here, and I will make a mental note to not eat this again raw unless I want to torture myself. But hey, the only way to find out is, I guess, to try it. But that is going to be incredible. Obviously, I could grind this down, just like we're going to do with a lot of other things today, to just have as ground ginger. It's funny because just of how light in color it looks. It's, you know, more on the yellow-white side. So that's just very different than what the store-bought ground ginger we have. So here are our containers of the ginger that will be used in recipes, not just straight into our mouth. But that was quite a lot. So like I said, we had started with 2 bulbs essentially, and they were pretty good size, probably at least 5 inches with like the little like root systems off. So that's a lot. I might do a little bit further investigation to see if there would be a need to do an absorber in there, but I mean, like I said, these both have rubber seals, so I'm hoping that is not necessary, but trial and error. I know that I said in a previous video that these could replace a chip. I'm for real about that. These were so good. I mean, I love chips, obviously. You probably couldn't dip it in salsa and things like that, but this just hit all of the markers that a chip kind of needs to hit without it being greasy. That's always kind of the downside, and you know, sometimes how you feel afterwards. So I'm hoping that we get more of these in our CSA, but I think the first season of them is probably past. So we will move on to our next item. I believe we're going to pull out the milk next. I went ahead and got our Vitamix set up here. Or when we pull our milk out, we want to do things pretty quickly. So my hope is that it is dry enough and of a powdered consistency. We'll be able to put it right into the Vitamix, blend it, let it sit to make sure that the powders kind of settle, and then put it into mason jars for storage. Here is our first tray of milk coming out. I'm only going to do 1 tray at a time. It looks very crackly, as you can hopefully see on here. It's pretty crisp. So we'll do some further investigation and dig in here and make sure that it is dry enough to put through the Vitamix. I went ahead and got a bench scraper to help get in there, so just kind of diving in the center here. The tall tale sign of making sure that everything is good and dry is making sure that it doesn't feel cold or obviously wet. Right now everything feels really good, and this is loads better than the last time when we did some full-on dairy. So I am pretty pleased with that. So I'll continue to check it as we put it into the Vitamix, but we're gonna go move right ahead. Very crumbly. This Vitamix is pretty big, so I have no doubt that I'll be able to easily do a tray at a time, instead of trying to break it up into their own batches over several mixes. I'll go put this down and we'll start grinding it all up. I'm going to just have it on the lowest setting and turn it on. And we'll of course go up from there as needed. So we're looking pretty good. This is an older style Vitamix. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, just on, off, a pulse, and then 10 settings for speed. Right now, just for information, we are on level 3. Now we're on 1. So bad, and actually it wasn't too dusty, so that's nice. So it's kind of what we look like there. Nice and airy, so got that going. We'll get it into our mason jar here. This is, I think, a quart size, so there's a possibility that all of this might fit into one, but we'll see. I've got multiple down here. I am super pleased with how this is turning out. These will definitely need oxygen absorbers since they are a pure liquid being turned into a powder. I'm hoping to use this in some recipes soon, just so we can get an idea of the consistencies and everything like that. So, alright. There's just a little up in the bottom, but since we have some more to go, that's alright. So we have about a half. I am going to try to get all of it in one. Makes it a little bit easier. So, let's get out the next tray. I'm going to cut into the center a little bit. Nice and dry again. That's good news. It comes off pretty easily. Obviously, there's going to be some residue because of the fat in it. I mean, if I guess I scraped and scraped and scraped, I could probably get most of it off, but get this tray out of the way and we'll blend it up. Okay, get our lid nice and tight on. Start at 1 and work our way up. Let it run for a few more seconds and we'll load it into our container here. Alright. Like I said before, we were just below the 2-cup level. The containers of milk that I put on these trays were even with each other, so this should all fit in here, but we'll see. We do want to try to get as much out as we can since we'll be doing the squash in here next. Obviously, I thought through what I would do first. I'd rather have milk in my squash rather than squash in my milk. So if we can't get all of it out, that is definitely okay, but just want to try to get out as much as possible. So we'll go ahead and just put the lid on for now until we get our oxygen absorbers out. But as a quick glimpse, here is our freeze-dried powdered milk. It is incredible how much lighter this tray is than what it was. Same with the milk. This one just kind of screams insanely light. It is very, very dry, so I'm going to turn the unit off, make it a little bit more quiet in here. So like I said, this tray is insanely light. It's always shocking to me how this machine works, but it turned out pretty much exactly as I was hoping. You can kind of still see my finger marks in there, but we will go ahead and get this in the Vitamix as well and grind it up, and I will go get the other container I have. I'm not sure how much this will take up, but we will find out. It doesn't really smell like anything. It almost seems like it has a sweet taste to it while we're at it. Oh my gosh, yes, super sweet. So that's really interesting. And it's just like confetti consistency. I love it. Vitamix back in queue here. That on. Once again, we'll go ahead and start low. It's working its way down. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. So that one I definitely went a little bit higher since our idea is to bake with it and you want it to be pretty finely ground. So The milk, although is ground pretty well, it probably was not as fine as this was. So let's take a look. While we're waiting for the dust to settle, I totally forgot to try some of the milk. Now, I don't have a spoon down here, so we're just taking a little bit of it. This would have probably been better to do when it was in piece form, but not much flavor. Obviously I don't have a lot of it to try because I'm just using my fingers, but it tastes very good. It almost tastes like a melt in your mouth candy. Obviously there is some sweetness to milk. Sometimes you don't always get that concentrated when you're drinking it or using it in whatever, but when it is powdered like that, it obviously dissolves pretty quickly, but it was good. I can't wait to try it in other ways. It doesn't smell like anything at all. But I mean, to me, as long as your milk is good and not going through the cycle of changes, milk doesn't really have much of a smell as it is, but that is going to be super fantastic for so many things. A small bit of information: if you are doing this, make sure that you're keeping your jars in a dark spot, especially if you're, in and out of them, or for long term. Not keeping them on the counter in the light, consistent temperatures, all things that are kind of common sense stuff, but I think we probably overlook things. Just be keeping this in our pantry to access as needed and try some fun stuff. But all right, I think our stuff has settled quite a bit, so we will move back to the squash. Got our other large container. I didn't want to risk it with the smaller one I had, so very dusty in there and a little bit more fragrant than when it was just in its one piece, so very powdery. We'll get this packaged up. We got all of our squash ground up. Here it is. Let's get our lid on until we get those oxygen absorbers out, but it's super light and fluffy, like a really, nice milled flour consistency, and hopefully that works well for baking. We will go ahead and get oxygen absorbers out and finalize the packaging. I got the impulse sealer out because we will need to seal back the oxygen absorbers, and we're just going to be doing two, one in each of them. One, two, and our setting needs to be turned to a 5. Good thing I checked. And we'll get these repackaged up. And our new seal is done, nice and warm. And we will get them back in this other bag. Our squash flour that we did, this is pretty incredible and will be even more amazing if it works. So once I ground it up, it definitely has a squash scent to it, but also smells very sweet. What's pulling really through is pumpkin, like pumpkin pie. Now obviously I know that they're in the same family of squash, but it is pretty crazy how much on its own it smells like that, which leads me to wanting to do pumpkin and see what that smells like. So that is going to be pretty fantastic. And our oxygen absorber in the milk, this turned out exactly how I was hoping it would. It turned out how I hoped the heavy cream would, but that didn't happen. And for those of you that are wondering, we are going to be doing a taste test of that here in a moment. But this is just going to be so helpful for baking, for rehydrating to drink. I really do want to try that, and maybe, you know, a side by side. Obviously, you never know how, I guess, what the consistency is going to be like. If I probably would have put this on a higher speed and continued to blend it like how I did with the squash, maybe it would have been even more fine, and, you know, water, or I'm sorry, the milk would take on water that much easier. So we'll see if it has any, like, you know, hard to hydrate granules left in it when we go to look at it, but super excited. So our heavy cream that we did months ago, they have been stored in a dark cabinet. Occasionally I get them out to look at them just to make sure we're not growing any kind of random mold species. From what I can tell, I have not opened them since we did that. This one has naturally canned itself, it feels like, and this one still pops. So, you know, that could obviously just be pressure amount in there, a million different things. So we are going to try these. Not a lot. Brad seems to think that they have gone bad. Obviously, I realize looking at them, no, they are not how that powdered milk looks like. Night and day difference here. But that's to be considered as a extreme novice and just wanting to jump into things. Fat content, high fat content is bad for your freeze dryer. It's not going to work. It's just going to pull out the moisture and leave the fat. So I'll be interested to see as we open it what the smell and the minimal amount that we try will taste like. All right, well, we got the boys down here to do a little taste test. Brad has one of the jars and I have the other. So we're going to open it. We're going to smell it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours should be. Does it smell like anything?
It smells kind of like cheese.
Ooh, that smells disgusting. Yeah, they smell the same.
Yeah.
They look the exact same from when I put them in there. Alright, you gonna try it with me? Just one little granule, that's it.
I'm not sure we should,
but... It tastes like sweet cheese butter or something.
Right. It's very buttery. It's interesting.
You wanna try one? Look this way and try it.
I mean, there's no mold or anything on it.
There isn't, but I don't know what you would use it for. Maybe you could squeeze it together and make a really concentrated butter. I don't know.
I was going to say, maybe take it upstairs and see if it melts on the pan.
Yeah, maybe we'll do some further experiments and report back. But for eating and reconstituting to have for coffee, like the original idea was, that's not going to happen, I don't think. But, all right, well, taste test done. I'd say it's a no-win for tasting.
I wouldn't do this one again.
Okay. That's a wrap on another video. It's so much fun having them down here to do stuff. But I know, just like you, we were very interested in how the heavy cream turned out, and now we know. But we will try to do some other experiments with it and see if it is actually useful for anything. If you used store-bought heavy cream, you might have a better outcome. I'm not really sure. As a reminder, that was raw heavy cream, so that might just have way more fat content. I'm not sure. But we will try to document if we do anything with it. And in addition, we will be doing a part 2 to this video of using our freshly freeze-dried and ground milk and squash flour to create some, hopefully, delicious home-baked goods to give it a whirl and see how it tastes. But In the meantime, if you like the content that you saw in the video today, definitely subscribe to our channel and you'll be notified when future videos are set to premiere or post. And if you are looking to see how our freeze drying adventures have gone up until this point, you can find a link to the playlist in the description below. But until our next video, we hope that you are having a great day and we will see you next time. Bye!